The pantry door clicked shut at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, and for 3 full seconds neither of us said anything. The kind of 3 seconds that stretch. Maya Turner set her phone down on the shelf beside a jar of dried lentils and looked at the door like she was expecting it to apologize. Then she looked at me. "Don't make me beg," she whispered. She said it quietly, not dramatically, not the way you'd say it in a movie. She said it the way someone says something they've been practicing not to say for a very long time. And I stood there in the dark of her aunt's pantry with a jar of cumin in one hand, and the absolute certainty that I had misunderstood every single thing about the last 4 years. This is the part where I explain how we got there. It takes a while. I'm told the ending is worth it. My name is Daniel Osai. I'm 34. I design custom furniture for a small workshop in the east end of the city, tables mostly, and bookshelves for people who take their libraries personally. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment that smells like sawdust and the good kind of coffee, and I have, by most reasonable measurements, a fine life. Maya Turner has been my best friend for 4 years, 2 months, and an embarrassing number of days that I was not counting. She would tell you we met because I nearly flattened her with a bookshelf at a mutual friend's moving party. That's technically accurate. I was carrying one end of a very large walnut unit down a very narrow hallway, and she came around the corner with a box of kitchen supplies and absolutely no warning, and we stopped about 6 inches from catastrophe. She looked at the shelf, then at me, then at the shelf again. Then she said, "That's a beautiful piece of furniture to nearly die by." I liked her immediately. That's the honest version. Maya is 32. She works as a translator, Portuguese, French, and a level of English precision that makes most writers feel slightly ashamed of themselves. She carries a small green journal everywhere. Not for journaling, she always explains with faint irritation, for vocabulary. Words she collects like other people collect receipts. She has terrible taste in breakfast foods and excellent taste in everything else. She laughs at her own jokes about half a second before she finishes making them, which should be annoying and somehow never is. The existing dynamic between us was the kind of thing that looks obvious from the outside and invisible from the inside. We talked every day. We had standing Tuesday dinners. She had a key to my apartment because I locked myself out twice in one winter, and she made a certain face when I told her about the second time. I told myself we were just close. I had very poor survival instincts around Turner women. Her Aunt Claudette throws a party every October. Big, loud, warm. The kind of party where the kitchen smells like 7 things at once, and someone's cousin you've never met is explaining their life philosophy to you within 20 minutes. Maya and I had been going together for 3 years running. It was, as far as I was concerned, simply a thing we did. This year the party was at Claudette's new place, a wide Victorian in the old part of the neighborhood. All high ceilings and slightly uneven floors, and a pantry off the kitchen the size of a small bedroom. I know the pantry's dimensions because I spent a significant portion of the evening inside it. I will get there. The night started normally. We arrived together, separated at the door. Maya got pulled into a conversation with her aunt's book club. I ended up near the drinks table talking to a man named Thierry, who had opinions about fermentation. About an hour in, I came looking for her. I found her in the kitchen, which was clearing out as the party settled into the living room. She was standing at the counter reading something on her phone with a look on her face I didn't recognize at first. Not sad exactly, something quieter than sad. She hadn't heard me come in. "Hey," I said. She looked up. The look vanished. She smiled. The right smile, the easy one, and said, Thierry is still going about the kombucha, isn't he? He has a follow-up position on vinegar, I said. Are you okay? I'm fine. She set her phone face down on the counter. Too fast. Like she'd been caught reading something she hadn't meant to read herself. Claudette needs something from the pantry. Come help me find it. It's a disaster in there. I followed her in. The pantry was indeed a disaster. Floor-to-ceiling shelving, every surface occupied, the light a single bulb on a pull cord that threw more shadow than illumination. We were maybe a minute into searching when the door swung shut behind us. Old latch, old house. Maya tried the handle, then tried it again. Okay, she said. Okay, I said. She looked at me. Something shifted in the air, and I felt it. Just slightly. Just enough, like the room had changed its mind about something. We had been locked in together for about 4 minutes when I noticed she wasn't trying the door anymore. She was sitting on an overturned crate near the back shelf, her green journal in her lap. She'd had it in her jacket pocket, as always. And she was looking at it without opening it. I leaned against the opposite shelf with a jar of cumin I'd picked up out of reflex and tried her phone for signal. Nothing useful. Claudette will notice eventually, I said. She ran her thumb along the journal's spine. Or Thierry will come looking for someone to tell about vinegar. That's a real possibility. She smiled. But it came out slightly wrong. A half beat off her usual timing. I noticed. I filed it. Here is what I had been filing for roughly 8 months without ever opening the folder. Maya had been different since January. Not dramatically. Not in any way I could point to directly. Just quieter around me, sometimes. More careful. She stopped finishing my sentences, which she used to do constantly, and which I had complained about with absolutely no sincerity. She laughed the same. She showed up the same. But occasionally I would say something ordinary and she would go still for just a moment and then respond a beat late, like she had been running a calculation I wasn't supposed to see. I had told myself this meant nothing. I was very good at telling myself things meant nothing. It was not a skill I was proud of. What were you reading? I asked. She looked up from the journal. When? In the kitchen. Before you put your phone down too fast. A pause. She turned the journal over in her hands. A message. From? Someone, she said it lightly, but her fingers tightened once around the journal's edge. Someone who asked me out last week. I told him I needed to think about it. I processed this with what I hope was a reasonable expression. And I've been thinking about it. She opened the journal to a random page. Looked at it. Closed it again. He's perfectly nice. That's the problem, actually. Perfectly nice it's a very complete description of a person, isn't it? There's nothing left after that. Perfectly nice is the ceiling, I said. Yes. She looked at me directly then. Exactly. Something about the way she said exactly landed in the wrong part of my chest. I blamed the cumin. The thing about being someone's best friend for 4 years is that you know the difference between the things they say and the things they mean. Maya speaks in precision. She is, professionally, a person who understands that the wrong word changes everything. But there are moments when her precision becomes a kind of armor, and what she is actually saying is dressed so carefully in the correct words that you have to read the space around them. I had been reading the space around her words for a while. I had not been willing to name what I was reading. When did you last date someone you didn't describe as perfectly nice? I asked. She considered this with the particular seriousness she gives questions she doesn't want to dismiss. A while, she said finally. The last one that meant something was... She stopped, looked at the journal. Never mind, Maya, it's a boring story. We're locked in a pantry. I have nowhere to be. She laughed at that. A real one, the kind that starts in her chest. And then it faded, and she looked at me with an expression I had never catalogued before, and I felt the temperature in the room change in a way that had nothing to do with the weather. The last person I dated who mattered, she said slowly, like she was translating something difficult. I didn't date. That's the correct version of the sentence. The silence after that was the loudest thing I'd heard all evening. I had poor survival instincts around Turner women. I also had, apparently, a talent for standing in small rooms while important things happened around me. Who? I asked. My voice came out steadier than I deserved. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she looked down at the journal in her hands. Her thumb moved along the spine again. Once, twice, Atel. I knew this one. She does it when she's deciding whether to say the honest version. I've written your name in here, she said quietly, more times than I think is defensible. That sentence did something quiet to the room. She kept her eyes on the journal. Not like I'm not 16. I didn't write it in a heart. I wrote it because something would happen, something small, and you'd say something and I'd think, I need to write that down. I'd think, I want to remember the way he said that. And then months would go by, and I'd flip back through, and it was a lot of your name, Daniel. That's all I'm saying. She held out the journal. An offering, or evidence, or both. I looked at it. I didn't take it. Maya, you don't have to say anything. She pulled it back. Her voice was perfectly level. I'm not asking you for anything. It's a small pantry, and I'm tired of being careful in small rooms with you. She was still looking at the journal when I said her name again. Not a question. Not a preamble, just her name, the way you say it when you mean it. She looked up. I'm going to need you to understand, I said, that I have been an extraordinary idiot. She blinked. What? 8 months, I said. At least 8 months. Probably longer. I've been filing things. Things I noticed. Things you did. I told myself the file didn't mean anything. I opened it anyway. Constantly, I set the cumin down on the nearest shelf because my hands needed to be free for this conversation, apparently. You looked away too quickly the night of Dara's birthday, and I thought about it for 3 days. That is not normal behavior for someone who is merely your best friend. Her lips parted. Just slightly. You don't have to say anything, I said. If I've misread this, we can go find Claudette and eat whatever dessert she's made, and this is just a thing that happened in a pantry. I mean it. Your call entirely. She looked at me for a long moment. She didn't move toward the door. I changed your contact name, she said, in my phone, about 6 months ago. My chest tightened. To what? A pause. I'm not ready to say what to. The smallest real smile. But I stopped changing it back. Every time I'd look at it, I'd think, I should fix that, that's ridiculous. And then not, Maya, I stepped closer. The pantry was not a large room. I was very aware of that. I am not perfectly nice. She laughed, surprised, short. No, you're really not. I'm occasionally annoying, and I over-explain furniture, and I have complicated feelings about breakfast foods. You think eggs are morally neutral. They are situationally ambiguous. That's different. I was close enough now that I could see the particular look on her face, the careful one dissolving. But when something goes right, you're the first person I want to tell. When something goes wrong, still you. Every time. For 4 years. That's not nothing, Maya. I don't know what I've been pretending it is, but it's not nothing. She held my gaze for 1 second longer than felt safe. Then she said, very quietly, Don't make me beg. I didn't. I reached out and took the green journal gently from her hands and set it on the shelf behind her. She went still. I put my hand along the side of her face, slowly, the way you do something you want to remember, and she leaned into it slightly. Just slightly. And I kissed her with all the care of a person who had been thinking about a thing for a very long time without admitting he was thinking about it. It was quiet. It was chosen. It was the best decision I had made in 4 years of making decisions near Maya Turner. From somewhere outside the pantry, a voice called, "Maya? Did you fall in? The trifle is ready, and your aunt is threatening to start without you. We broke apart." Maya pressed her lips together, trying not to laugh. She failed immediately. "Coming," she called toward the door. She looked at me. I looked at her. Her eyes were bright and slightly disbelieving, and exactly what I would have written in a journal if I kept one. "You think eggs are morally neutral," she said. "I stand by that. I'm going to think about that for days." "Good," I said. She picked up her journal. She put it back in her jacket pocket. She tried the pantry door, and this time, it opened. 3 months later, she told me what she'd changed my name to in her phone. She showed me the screen one morning over coffee, my name, and after it, in brackets, a single word. I will not repeat it here because she made me promise. What I will say is that it was accurate. 6 months after the pantry, she still carries the green journal everywhere. I still over-explain furniture to people who didn't ask. We still do Tuesday dinners, except now she doesn't leave. We argue about eggs every single time. Neither of us has changed our position. Neither of us is trying very hard. 2 years later, when people ask how we got together, Maya tells them we got locked in a pantry and she issued an ultimatum. I tell them I nearly crushed her with a bookshelf once and she never fully recovered from the drama of it. Both of these are true, in their way. What is also true, and what we agree on, is that it wasn't new. It had probably always been there. It just finally ran out of room to hide. What would you have done, locked in that pantry, if the person you trusted most looked at you like that and told you they'd stop changing your name? And have you ever held something back? For months, for years, because saying it felt like crossing a line you couldn't uncross? Tell me your story in the comments. If this one landed for you, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.